Welcome back to part 3 where we're adding rational numbers. Now when we left off we talked about using the commutative property of addition to rearrange our numbers so that things made more sense and so that they were able to add and subtract easier. That way we could maybe align fractions on one area, decimal numbers on the other, and things of that nature to make the math a little bit easier. Let's take a look at that in practice. We're going to add 1.25 or 1 25/100 plus a negative 1/3 plus a negative 7/8. Now first thing I want to point out is at some point everything's going to have to be a fraction here because 1/3 is going to be a repeating decimal. And because 1/3 is a non-terminating or a repeating decimal there's not 0 repeating, we're going to have to write everything as a fraction sooner or later. Let's see how they want us to solve this problem. They said what I just said, because 1/3 is non-terminating, then they want to write all the add-ins as fractions. So that means they're going to take that 1.25 and they are going to change it to a fraction as well that you see right here. 1.25, they made a huge leap here, is 1 1/4, and 1 1/4 is the same thing as 5/4. So that's their first big leap. Now, what do they need to find next? I'm thinking they need to find least common denominators, and if it was me working it, I would make the ugly problem pretty. So I'm going to stop the video right now, and I'm going to take a screenshot of where we are, and I'm going to work it the way I would work it because I think you'll find that to be easier. So are we ready to take this on? Let's take a look at this. The first thing I need to do is find my least common denominator. So my least common denominator for 4, 3, and 8, that's going to end up being 24 because 24 is the least common multiple of my denominators. Next, I'm going to take and make my ugly problem pretty by multiplying my signs. A positive times a negative, that's a negative. A positive times a negative, that's a negative. And finally, I'm going to take and find the corresponding numerators. 4 goes into 24 6 times. 5 times 6, that's going to be 30. 3 goes into 24 8 times. 1 times 8 is going to be 8. 8 goes into 24 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. And with that, we are finally ready to get down into some business solving the problem. I'm going to do this one bite at a time. I'm going to take care of that part. 20 or 30 minus 8, that's going to leave me with 22 over 24. And then I'm going to bring down this part minus 21 over 24. Next, I have 22 minus 21. That is, of course, going to equal to 1 over 24, which is going to be your final answer. So I'm going to come back to where we got it here. There it is. Back to the way they did it. And you can see that they did very similar. They found the common denominators and corresponding numerators. Next, they took and put it all over 24, but they didn't make the ugly problem pretty. From there, they simplified 8 or 30 minus, actually what did they do? They did the negative 8 minus 21, got them negative 29. I wouldn't really done it that way. And then 30 minus 29 gave them the same, 1 over 24 that I got for my answer. I'm not going to bother typing it in because right there they tell you what the answer is. A couple of different ways to skin the cat. I like my way better. Alright, I don't know if you can see, but Sharu has come back to visit us here. You'll probably see his shadow moving back there a little bit at least as he moves in front of the light. And there he goes. Now we've got a new problem and we want you to solve this one. So pause the video and work on this problem on your own. See what you end up coming up with. Did you get it worked? Did you get the right answer? Let's find out how you did it. So we're going to start off by looking at the problem and figuring out how we want to go about working it. I'm going to start off by noting that both, whoops, don't have my marker right set right here. 14 and 7 have 7 as a factor. And because they have 7 as a factor, we cannot work these as a terminating decimal. We're going to have to work them as fractions at some point. So let's get started on it. I'm going to start off by leaving my negative 0.75. In fact, I think I'm just going to go ahead and take that to a fraction right now, and that's going to end up being negative 3 over 4. Plus, I'm going to do my Texas stuff right here. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 1 is going to give me 36 over 7. From there, I'm going to take and add to that 14 times 2 is going to be 28, plus 1 is going to be 29 over 14. And that's going to give us a really good start here. Now we're going to have to come up with some least common denominators, and that's where things are going to get to be not a whole heck of a lot of fun. My least common denominator is going to end up being 28. So I'm going to take my various numbers there, set them up over 28. 4 goes into 28 7 times. 3 times 7 is 21. 7 goes into 28 4 times. 4 times 36, that's going to be 120, plus 24 is going to be 144. And then 14 goes into 7 2 times, and 2 times 29, that is going to end up being 58. Now, I'm going to take and do what they did last time. I'm going to add these two numbers first because they're addition. Rather than finding the difference right now, I'm just going to leave that difference alone. 21 over 28. I'm going to leave it sit there. Plus, and then I'm going to add these values. 144 plus 58. That's going to end up giving us 194, 202, if I did that math right in my head, over 28. Let me check my work here. That's going to be 144 plus 58. Yep, 202. So that's going to be good. Now I've got signs are different. I'm going to find the difference, and the difference between 21 and 202, well, that'll become 201. Subtract 20 from that is going to be 181 over 28. Now that's going to be an improper fraction still. We got to take that improper fraction, change it back into a mixed number. I don't think it's going to simplify before we do that. So let's go ahead and do some very painful long division where we divide 28 into 181. Now in working this one, I'm going to take and do some more cheating. I'm going to say that 28 is kind of close to 30. So when I'm estimating, I'm going to say, well, 30 goes into, I don't know. Now I'm going to scratch out my last digit. 30 goes into 18 6 times. So 6 is going to be the number I'm going to use as my starting point. 28, of course, goes into 1 0. It goes into 18 0. But we're going to try to put 28 into 181 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 2 is 120. 120 plus 4 is 160. So I get 168 there. Now I'm going to take and do my subtraction. Going to do some borrowing here. 11 minus 8 is going to be 3. 7 minus 6 is going to be 1. So my answer is going to be 6 and 13 over 28. 6 and 13 over 28. Let's go back and check it and see if we did well with this problem. That's going to be right here. 6 and 13 over 28. Accept and check. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Alright, I didn't do anything wrong. This is their answer. That's my answer. You can see that they and I have the same exact answer. The computer's just marking my beautiful work incorrect. Example number 7 says the lowest recorded elevation in the contiguous United States is 282 feet below sea level, and that's located in Death Valley. Suppose you begin hiking in the parking lot near the Badwater Basin, and that's at a negative 266 feet below sea level. The stopping points of the hike and the elevation traveled are going to be shown at your different on the table down here. And it wants to know what is the elevation of the stopping point. So to work this problem, we're going to have to take our starting point of 266, subtract 12.5, add 26.35, subtract 3.5, and then add 297.3. In doing this, the problem's going to look pretty danged ugly. It's going to look like that, and that's an awful lot of problem to look at, but we're going to take it like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. Now we're going to work the problem, and it looks pretty overwhelming, but is it really? Look at the denominators of your fractions. The denominator is a 5, and your denominator is a 2. What do we know if our denominators are divisible only by 2 and 5? We know that those numbers can be changed into decimals. And this will be a good time to use a decimal and say, you know what, maybe just maybe fractions are not my friends. So from here, the very next thing we're going to do is change all those fractions into decimals. 26 and 3/5 became 26 and 6/10. And then 3 and 1/2, negative 3 and 1/2 became negative 3.5. Easy math, right? From there, they're going to take and use some commutative property of addition to rearrange the order of the numbers so that they work better. And what they did is they took that 3.5 and the 12.5. Those are 0.5s. 0.5s mesh really well together. They become whole numbers. And so they stuck them together. Those are also going to be plus a negative and plus a negative, which means they're both going to be subtracting. And when you have two numbers that are subtracting, signs are the same, well, that means find the sum. From here, they broke down braces into the parts that they wanted to work together. You don't have to do that, but it's a good way to get a visual representation on what you're going to end up doing. And from there, they started working on that problem. The negative 12.5 minus 3.5, that's going to end up being, let's see, negative 13. That's going to be a negative 16 right there. And then negative 266 minus 16, that gave you the negative 282. All of these numbers are going to become signs are the same, find the sum, because they're all negative numbers. And that means they're going to come together, be 282, with a negative sign being the sign from the largest number going in front of your answer. Likewise, 26.6 plus 397.3, that's going to equal your 243. From here, we've got signs are different, find the difference, and I think try 141.9, check my answer, and my answer checks. Easy math. Therefore, your change in elevation is going to be a positive 149.9 feet above sea level. Now, the textbook still has a couple more example problems, and if you're feeling just really froggy, you go right ahead and do it. I'm thinking that we have pretty well beat this horse to death, and there's no reason to keep working more of the same problems when you have plenty of problems on your homework to work to help you to exercise that mind. So go ahead and stop the video, get started on your homework, work really hard on it, and think about each problem. Think about, how can I make this problem easier? Should it be a fraction? Should it be a decimal? What is in my best interest in solving it? Good luck on it.